Part 33. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 321. The countless forces in the surrounding void seemed to be attracted at this moment and gathered around the gods and Buddhas. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. A huge black palm enveloped all three of them. This attack instantly made Lin Yi feel creepy, and the danger of death enveloped him. Without any hesitation, he attacked with all his strength. His four summons burst out all their strength. The ice and firestorm of the two-headed dog came forward and directly enveloped the huge palm. The countless black smoke of the weird child turned into a long whip of tentacles, slashing at the giant palm, densely packed, bursting with continuous loud noises. The body of the bad doctor was filled with countless black smoke, and turned into a ghost face and rushed towards the giant palm. This time, the corpse monster blocked in front of Lin Yi, and his arms covered with purple scales gushed out with boundless power, turning into a huge fist shadow wall. At the same time, Lin Yi used all his strength to operate the nine heavens mysterious ice. His whole body was covered with a layer of black armor of black ice, and his hands were holding the fearless seal and the lion seal. All the power fell on the oncoming giant palm at the same time. The next moment, a violent explosion exploded in front of him. The giant palm shattered under several forces, turning into a huge impact, sweeping around. On the other two sides, Xuanhuan and the woman in white also used their methods. The pure white sword in the hand of the woman in white instantly turned into a 3-meter ice crystal giant sword, with an endless sword energy, slashing towards the oncoming giant long palm. The sharp edge was boundless and the cold air was pressing. In an instant, the giant palm was split into two halves, and at the same time countless ice filled the air, freezing the giant palm. The next moment, the giant palm turned into countless ice chips and fell to the ground. The woman made a light blow, but her face did not change at all. The white sword in her hand pointed to the ground, and a hint of murderous intent appeared in her eyes. On the other side, Xuanhuan, his hands were not sure when to move a spell. A dark crescent moon appeared in front of him, and this crescent moon was spinning at high speed, with a rotating knife light. He just shouted softly, "Go!" The light of the crescent moon slashed towards the oncoming giant palm in an instant, and the next moment, two forces exploded at the same time, setting off a storm of wind waves. Taken Lun looked at his mu being broken, not caring at all, with a faint smile on his face. "Very good, you can break my 3 bows of gods and Buddhas. It is impossible to defeat you in a short time. Then see you later, this spiritual source will be given to you." He smiled slightly, turned his body, and a strange power filled his body. Like a ghost, he disappeared in the eyes of the 3 people. The white-clothed woman's eyes fell on Xuanhuan and Lin Yi, and fell into a slight thought. At this time, Xuanhuan's voice sounded, "Dai Bai Ruxian, I have a cause and effect with this person to settle. Why don't you give me this spiritual source? I owe you a favor. Anyway, there are still many spiritual sources in Honglian City. You waste so much time here, and the effort and benefits are not proportional." The female clerk called Bai Ruxian frowned, looked at Lin Yi and Xuanhuan, and shook her head slightly. "Forget it, it's meaningless to waste time here with you for a spiritual source. Xuanhuan, you owe me a favor, give it back to me next time, and I won't fight with you this time." Xuanhuan smiled and said, "Daiu, rest assured, I have always kept my word in Kishan Zizong." Bai Ruxian nodded slightly, "Okay." After that, Bai Ruxian turned around and turned into a white cloud of light, floating away. At this time, only Xuanhuan and Lin Yi were left in the field, as well as Lin Yi's summons. Xuanhuan showed a cold smile on her face and looked at Lin Yi. "Very good, now we can settle our karma together. You probably don't know who I am yet." Lin Yi sneered, "I just don't know your name, but I know everything you do. You came to my shop to get some of my aura from me, and then used some kind of spell to plot against me. You also appeared at the scene of the life extension ceremony and took some things from those corpses, right? Do you remember that when the second world changed, the spiritual source fell and someone followed you? I know all these things. Xuanhuan was so smart that she knew what was going on immediately after hearing this. So it was you who stole my spiritual source. You actually knew that I was plotting against you, and you also knew about the life-extending sacrifice. You know too many things. It seems that I have one more reason to kill you. Hearing this, Lin Yi smiled slightly. Kill me, I'm afraid you think too much. I should kill you. Xuanhuan sneered, really? Then I don't need to talk nonsense with you, let's see the truth with our hands. As he said, Xuanhuan began to move, his hands pinched the mysterious magic formula, and two crescent moons appeared on his left and right. He was filled with a faint black gas, and rushed towards Lin Yi in a flash. Just a few vertical and horizontal, he was in front of Lin Yi, waving his right hand towards him, and the rotating crescent moon chopped straight towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi's true destiny can observe everything. At this moment, he is spying on the movement of all the energy in Xuanhuan's body. At the same time, he is also analyzing the Taoism he just performed, this mysterious crescent moon Taoism. The crescent moon whizzed past, and the air made a violent sound of breaking through the air. Lin Yi's figure is as agile as a monkey. At this moment, he performed the illusionary man immortal Dao. The whole person is shrouded in a haze, dodging the attack from Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan looked at Lin Yi, who was filled with hazy light, and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. He can be sure. This is definitely not the skill that Lin Yi just used. What's going on? Why can he perform another method? Did he practice multiple methods at the same time? I've only heard of one method that can do this. The myriad methods of heaven and earth is one of the legendary mysterious methods that has been lost for countless years. It is said that this method can simulate all the methods between heaven and earth, and is known to be invincible in battle. Did this guy inherit this method? Thinking of this, Xuanhuan suddenly felt greedy. He wanted to get this method. Once he got it, it meant that his future would be smooth and it would only be a matter of time before he reached the top. Thinking of this, a hint of coldness suddenly appeared in his eyes. It seems that I can't kill him this time. Let's cripple him first. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 322. Thinking of this, the two crescent moons in his hands frequently waved at Lin Yi's legs. Although Lin Yi was surrounded by a hazy glow, he could not grasp Lin Yi's exact position. But his rotating crescent moon had a range of 1 meter. If hit within this range, he would be seriously injured immediately. Lin Yi did not let his summons come forward to help at this time. He was calculating how strong the damage of this mysterious Taoism was. After a few seconds, he had reached a conclusion. The power emitted by this crescent moon Taoism was twice the maximum power of his own body. That is to say, it is absolutely impossible to resist it. You can't stop this round moon Taoism. You can only move and attack. Thinking of this, his body flashed and instantly left the battle circle. Xuanhuan naturally would not allow it and would catch up immediately. But at this time, a thick black smoke quickly covered the area of 10 meters. The smoke was full of dense corrosive power, all from the bad doctor. At this time, the bad doctor was hidden in the smoke, leaving no trace. As the black smoke spread, Xuanhuan's vision was immediately affected, and he could not see Lin Yi's trace. A piece of black ice and fire gushed out from in front of him, and instantly enveloped him, covering the sky and the earth. Xuanhuan immediately sensed the danger, and two crescent moon vortexes slashed in front of him. The crescent moon, with the power of the vortex, instantly shattered the oncoming ice and fire, and at the same time absorbed the power of ice and fire into it. The power of the crescent moon even increased at this moment. At this time, Lin Yi, who had long been out of the battle circle, immediately noticed the changes. Good guy, this crescent moon vortex method can actually absorb the enemy's power for its own use. This is too powerful. The brilliance of the True Destiny solution allowed him to quickly see the principle of it, and his face was slightly condensed. At this moment, countless black smoke tentacles shot out from behind Xuanhuan, covering his legs, feet and neck. Xuanhuan felt the attack from behind and frowned. The two crescent moons slashed behind him under his control. Like two huge blades of light. Bang, bang, bang. Countless black smoke tentacles were cut off in an instant under the crescent moon. However, this time, the power of the tentacles was not absorbed by the crescent moon, and Lin Yi keenly noticed the change. Has the power absorbed by the crescent moon reached its upper limit? 3 times my power limit, the instantaneous explosive power can reach 30% of my energy limit. Is this the limit power of the third-level strongman of the human immortal way, exerting the law? It is really terrifying. Among all my powers, except for magic weapons, there is no means to reach this level. But attack power is attack power, and it has no effect if it can't hit the body. And the human immortal way is always a flesh and blood body. Even if it is my own limit attack, as long as it falls on him, it will be a serious injury. In an instant, Lin Yi captured the most important key point of this battle. Only by hitting the opponent can we win the final victory. A cold light appeared in his eyes and he took a deep breath. An order was triggered. A huge figure rushed out of the black fog. Countless purple fists covered with scales smashed down on Xuanhuan's head. Countless fists turned into a wall in an instant, and violent power was output crazily. Xuanhuan's face changed drastically, and the crescent moons on both hands merged into a crescent moon vortex in an instant to block the wall formed by the fists. Bang 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 bang. Countless collisions broke out in an instant, and the deafening sound made both of them jump in their hearts. Xuanhuan's face showed a trace of solemnity, and it was obvious that the pure power from the purple corpse monster made him feel a little pressure. At the same time, Lin Yi took action. His underwear was a black piece of clothing, which was a strange thing that could travel through space. The spiritual wave was injected into it, and the next moment, he appeared out of thin air behind Xuanhuan. At this time, Xuanhuan was attracted by the purple corpse monster. Lin Yi, who suddenly appeared behind him, made him feel a chill. A palm-sized, golden hill hit his back. Although Xuanhuan felt the huge threat behind him, he did not panic. At this moment, the essence in his body was instantly injected into his robe. The next moment, a dark light appeared on his robe and enveloped him. The golden palm-sized hill was in the middle of the black light. The huge power made the black light begin to tremble instantly. Then countless cracks spread from the place where it was hit to the entire light curtain. At this time, a delicate small sword the size of a palm flew out of Xuanhuan's arms, with a black light, stabbing towards the golden hill. Dang! A metal collision sound exploded instantly. Lin Yi felt his spirit burst, and a sharp pain burst out from his heart. A fishy and sweet taste appeared in his mouth involuntarily. He knew he was injured. At this time, Xuanhuan was not feeling well. His flying sword collided with the earth-suppressing seal and was bounced off on the spot. His mind attached to the flying sword was also shaken. At this time, the purple corpse monster was still madly increasing its punch speed. Although his hands had been scraped by the rotating crescent moon and were bleeding, and even white bones appeared. But he didn't stop at all and continued to bombard madly. The purple corpse monster is a pure power monster. In terms of pure power output, it is not inferior to the power of the third-level master of the human immortal way when performing Taoism. However, although his power is strong, his body cannot resist the damage of Taoism. At this time, the bones on his hands have begun to break. If he is not a corpse monster, but a normal human, his fists would have been unable to swing. At this time, the two-headed dog and the strange child attacked Xuanhuan from the side at the same time. Countless black smoke tentacles, long whips and ice and fire power poured out. The light that permeated Xingyuez's Taoist robe was shattered in an instant. At this time, Lin Yi injected more power into the Zhenshan seal, taking advantage of his illness to kill him. He has already noticed that Xingyuezi has suffered tremendous pressure and may collapse at any time. At this time, Xingyuezi has indeed been pushed to the limit. He did not expect Lin Yi to suddenly appear behind him, and suddenly burst out with such a huge killing power. He immediately put him in a dangerous situation. Facing this situation, his eyes were extremely cold. He was a child of destiny, a future seed player of the sect, but he was forced into this situation by a native. If this were to be reported back, I'm afraid his evaluation would be greatly reduced. There was an unprecedented coldness in his eyes, and he no longer had any plans to hesitate. The next moment, something exploded in his body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 323. A dark and deep power covered his whole body in an instant. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. It was made up of countless black lines, and countless energy in the void seemed to be attracted by him and quickly covered his body. He seemed to have turned into another creature at this moment. His whole body was covered with crystal black matter, with 2 horns on his head and a face like a sculpture. His hands became like 5 claws, and a huge air wave rushed around. It was as powerful as a grenade explosion, instantly pushing Lin Yi and his summons who were besieging him into the distance. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes were very deep, and he noticed the change in Xingyuezi the moment he used his trump card. In the moment before the aura appeared, he had already used the space channel, and Wei Wu returned to 5 meters away. When the air wave appeared, he used the space channel again and returned to his original position. This back and forth was just a matter of a moment. He perfectly avoided the impact of this huge wave of air, and at the same time, the Golden Hills earth-suppressing seal was firmly imprinted on Xingyuez's back again. Boom! This time it was a huge muffled sound of hitting a real object, and Xingyuezi flew forward like a meteor. The black substance covering his body also appeared countless damages at this moment. Lin Yi's 4 summons were pushed 3 meters away in the air wave just now. In particular, the purple corpse monster in front of Xingyuezi just gave way to the direction where Xingyuezi flew out. 10 meters away. The new Xingyuezi suddenly hit the ground, and at this moment he seemed unable to get up. But the next moment, a ball of black light enveloped him, and he disappeared from the spot in a flash. At this time, Lin Yi's figure had flashed to the place where he disappeared, and punched him. Boom! His punch hit the ground directly, creating a deep pit, but he still missed Xingyuezi after all. He frowned deeply. Good guy, he actually escaped like this. He has many ways to save his life. The 3rd level of the human immortal is really powerful. I have so many advantages, and I have used them to the extreme. Even when I was hit by the mountain seal, I couldn't kill him. As expected of a master of the 3rd level of the human immortal, he is really powerful. But you lost to me this time. You won't have a chance next time. I will only get stronger and stronger. Thinking of this, Lin Yi no longer asked whether Xingyuezi escaped, but flashed to the spiritual source they were fighting for. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the spiritual source as big as a human head. The moment the majestic spirituality touched Lin Yi's skin, it began to rush into his body crazily. An indescribable heat spread from his body, and at this moment he felt as if he was about to melt. But this heat did not hurt him, but made him feel so comfortable that he almost cried out. This is a heat that penetrates deep into his bones, as if it burned all the inharmonious substances in his body. His true destiny looked at him carefully. At this moment, he was like a spiritual flame. The cells in his body were filled with the purest essential life light, and in that essential life light were countless spiritual flames. Faintly, he felt that his body had a faint sense of fullness, as if he was reaching a certain limit. There is still a little distance, which means that I still need a spiritual source to truly reach the limit of my body. Thinking of this, Lin Yi no longer stopped, but the light of true destiny flashed in his eyes, capturing the spiritual traces that permeated the void. Soon he chose a direction and ran there quickly. His 4 summons turned into black smoke and caught up with him, disappearing in the summoning album. This night is destined to be long, and chaos is the main theme of the whole world. Everyone is fighting for their own destiny. At this time, Lin Yi came to a battlefield. This is a large square, with about 5 spiritual lights flashing on the square. More than 15 masters of the human immortal way were fighting each other here, and their goal was the 5 groups of spiritual light on the ground. Looking at so many people, Lin Yi's face sank slightly. But he did not choose to retreat this time. The 4 summons appeared, and the purple corpse monster's hands had returned to their original state, returning to its peak combat power. Lin Yi carried 4 human immortal level summons and approached the spiritual aggregate closest to him. And here there were 3 masters of the human immortal way fighting. Seeing Lin Yi's arrival, their faces suddenly changed, and they stopped and stared at him. "Stop if you come." At this time, the 3 people suddenly shared a common hatred and locked Lin Yi's mind, as if they would launch a thunder attack if he moved a little. Lin Yi looked at them and smiled slightly. "Everyone, I want this group of spiritual aggregates. You can fight for other ones. If you stop me, then I will have to rob it. You 3 can't stop me." As he said this, his 4 summons had released their power. The purple corpse monster walked towards them, all the muscles in its body trembling, and waves of horrifying aura were overwhelming them. The 2-headed dog whimpered in a low voice, and the black light of ice and fire rose from its mouth, which might burst out at any time. The bad doctor was surrounded by a thick corrosive mist that was spreading all around, and was directly covering the location of the spiritual polymer. The strange child sat on Lin Yi's shoulder, and countless black smoke gathered behind him. Tentacles emerged from the darkness one after another, making him look strange and terrifying. And Lin Yi looked like a devil from hell, with countless strange beings following behind him, as if they were going to sweep the world. This kind of weather made the faces of the 3 immortal cultivation masters change drastically. They were under too much pressure, and the feeling of death enveloped them at any time, as if they would be swallowed up in the next moment. The 3 of them quickly retreated and quickly made way for the location of the spiritual source. They looked at each other and rushed directly to the battlefield of other spiritual polymers. The situation on Lin Yi's side alarmed the others, and they looked here one after another, and each of them showed a shocked look. They had never seen such a terrifying existence. Lin Yi naturally noticed their gazes, but he didn't care. All this was an effect he deliberately created. He wanted to use absolute power to shock these people and make them give up their desire to fight for this piece of spiritual polymer. Now he only needed a piece of spiritual polymer to reach his body's limit, and he didn't need too much. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 324. With his strength, it is no problem for him to occupy a spiritual source in this square. His eyes swept over these people, and a low voice sounded. "I only want this one ball, I will not interfere with the others. Whatever you want to do, please feel free to do it." After saying that, Lin Yi walked towards the ball he locked. The violent breath was released casually, making everyone feel a huge pressure. In the end, no one tried to stop it, including the 3 people who were robbed. He easily took this piece of spiritual source into his hand. In an instant, it turned into countless spiritual brilliances and flowed into his body. Boom! At this moment, he seemed to break a kind of bondage in the dark. Lin Yi felt a pure flame rising in his body. His consciousness seemed to be forged and reborn in this mysterious flame. A faint spiritual fluctuation was slowly appearing. His physical constitution seemed to have reached a perfect state under the forging of this spiritual flame. This is a sublimation of the essence of life, which seems to have opened a mysterious spiritual door for him. Lin Yi didn't know what kind of realm the ghost immortal path on the human immortal path was. In fact, the most important step in this realm is to condense your own spirit. And this step has stumped countless heroes and talented people. Spirit has always been a vague and illusory term, although its existence can be confirmed. But it is extremely difficult to make it from illusory to perceptible, controllable, and even a kind of power. Even in those sects, the existence of the ghost immortal path is also the upper-level figure of the sect. It can serve as the elders of the sect and various important positions. Even in the weird side, those who can match the ghost immortal path are absolutely strong. At this time, through the integration of the spiritual source, Lin Yi's life essence has changed, which directly affects his mental state. Let his spirit change from nothingness to substance, although there is only a trace, but this trace is equivalent to getting the key. As long as he can step into the extreme realm of the human immortal path, then stepping into the realm of the ghost immortal path is just a matter of course. If Lin Yi was seen by the elders of the sects at this time, they would definitely try every means to recruit him into their sect. He meant a destined elder-level figure in the future. Because of the existence of the spiritual source, he even had the qualifications to impact the headmaster level. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a hint of doubt appeared in his eyes. He could feel that something seemed to appear in his consciousness, and he could control it, but he didn't know what it was. His body was more comfortable than ever before, without all the hidden injuries and defects. He felt that his economic operation speed seemed to be nearly times faster. Feeling the lively liquid state of the body, they were slowly transforming into a wonderful state. Lin Yi's eyes swept over the many immortal masters who were fighting in the square, and he didn't plan to stay any longer. All the spirituality in the body seemed to have turned into a ball of fire, covering every cell in his body. He could no longer accommodate more spirituality, and his body had reached a certain limit. Turning around and walking towards the Wanchaiwu, he didn't plan to stay outside any longer. Seeing the time was already 1 o'clock in the morning. Now that there are such big changes in the outside world, I wonder if there will be any impact inside the Wanchaiwu. A trace of worry flashed in his eyes, and he felt that all this was caused by some reason. In the observation of Zhenming Daija, the inexplicable red light that originally filled Honglian City has disappeared. No matter it is underground or on the ground, no new red light leaked out. Seeing this scene, he had a bad guess in his heart. It seems that something under Honglian City was shattered, so there will be so much mysterious red light leaking out. And everything that happened tonight seems to have started with the pouring of red light. Rumble. Just as Lin Yi returned to the Wanchaiwu, a terrifying roar sounded outside Honglian City. This roar was the explosion of countless heavy weapons, and the sky was dyed orange-red, which was the glory of the flame. The earth was shaking, and it was obviously a fierce saturation attack just now. There was a trace of shock in his eyes, and goosebumps all over his body. A strong sense of crisis came from the direction outside the city. Are there any more changes outside the city? Are the imperial troops on the battlefield? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, revealing a trace of uncertainty. Shaking his head, I can't care about these, let's go back to the Wanchaiwu first and see what's going on there before talking about other things. At this moment, Lin Yi disappeared from the spot in a flash. He had completed the state of liquid transformation and his combat power was improved again. Although it was only about 15% of the amount of essence, if his 9'9" spirit pool was counted, this improvement was comparable to the 30% improvement of ordinary people and immortal masters. But this was only an increase in quantity. In terms of output, he also increased from the original 13% to 15%. The limit output represents the maximum upper limit of strength, and the increase in the upper limit of strength represents the increase in combat power. At this time, his combat power and essence reserves were superimposed on each other, and finally his combat power increased by a large margin again. The figure was like golden lightning, running and shuttling on the streets of Honglian City. At this time, there were many secondary disasters such as landslides and fires caused by various earthquakes in Honglian City. There were even many mutant ghosts, causing chaos in the city. When Lin Yi ran, if he encountered a mutant ghost, he would deal with it. He had the speed seal in his left hand and the demon seal in his right hand. When he saw a ghost appearing while running, he would blast out the demon seal. A strange ghost that seemed to be a middle-aged man was wandering on the street. When the people around saw him, they all trembled with fear and fled from here screaming. This ghost seemed to have locked onto a mother and daughter. He was filled with a strong weird aura and wore a tattered suit. His face was half rotten, and his eyes flashed with resentment and anger. When he saw the mother and daughter, his angry eyes became even stronger, as if he remembered some kind of resentment in the past. "Kill you! Kill you! Kill you!" Only this sentence echoed in his mouth, and everyone around could hear it. At this time, everyone's heart was filled with fear. No one stood up, but just ran away in fear. From time to time, they would look back at the evil spirit and walk towards the mother and daughter. The mother and daughter were shrouded in fear, and they seemed to have completely lost the ability to move. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 325. The mother held her 4 or 5-year-old daughter, who was still wearing pajamas and squatting on the ground in fear. The mother tried hard to pick up her daughter and stay away from the ghost. But when she saw the ghost in the suit, she could not control herself, and the feeling of weakness continued to spread from her body. She was like a weak ant, and could only wait quietly for death to come. At this time, the ghost was not far away from him, only 2 meters away. The woman had already collapsed and cried, "Don't come, don't come." Her eyes looked around, looking at the people who were hiding far away. "Save me, please save me, who will save me?" Fear made her face a little distorted, tears and snot flowed out, and the daughter in her arms cried loudly. "Wow, wow! Mom, Mom!" At this time, the woman just hugged her daughter hard, trying to give her a sense of security with her warmth. But all this was in vain, and no one around offered a helping hand. Everyone showed fear in their eyes and stayed away from here. Even the young and strong men were the same, trembling and unable to move in the distance. Terror enveloped them, making their bodies instinctively weak. Just as the ghost arrived in front of the woman, grabbing her and her daughter in her arms with both hands. A golden lightning came from the distant street like a savior. A few flashes in a second, reaching behind the ghost. It immediately felt the threat from behind, with anger and violence in its eyes. Turning around, he grabbed behind with both hands, but what greeted him was only a handprint shrouded in a cyan gold light. Infinite light was reflected on the chest of the suit ghost in an instant. The next moment, he turned into countless fragments and disappeared into the air. After killing this mutant ghost, a faint strange power was sucked into the golden lightning. The golden lightning that did all this had disappeared here in an instant, leaving the stunned crowd, completely unaware of what had happened. At this time, these people who were dominated by fear returned to their normal state. They felt that they seemed to be able to move freely, just like before. The woman's eyes showed a trace of relief for surviving the disaster, and her eyes looked in the direction where the golden lightning disappeared. She clenched her right fist and covered her chest with gratitude. Thank you, thank you." Although she didn't know who saved her, it didn't prevent her from expressing her gratitude. On the way back to the Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi killed at least more than 10 mutated ghosts. A trace of solemnity flashed through his heart. Good guy, it's less than 3 kilometers away, and so many ghosts have appeared. I'm afraid there are hundreds of ghosts of various forms in the entire Honglian city. And these ghosts are all eroded by strange power, which is not a good thing. The trouble in the Wanchaiwu is probably not small. Time went back, and a few minutes after Lin Yi left the Wanchaiwu began to show strange changes. Thick fog continued to appear and quickly filled the entire Wanchaiwu. Vodka, absinthe, and brandy sensed the danger at the first moment. Vodka's face was gloomy. Be careful, something will come out soon. Absinthe, you are a vengeful spirit, and now you need to patrol the entire Wanchaiwu to find dangerous existences. Once there is an existence that exceeds the limit of our power, we must immediately hide in the underground maze. There, we will use the power of the maze guards to deal with these things. Absinthe also knew that this was not the time to play around. Although he was very dissatisfied with Vodka giving him orders, he still acted rationally. A trace of strange resentment spread out from his body, turning into small absinthes, running to every corner of the Wanchaiwu. This is his special skill, the power he mastered in the original world. Looking at this scene, Brandy's eyes showed a trace of surprise. Hey, so many small absinthes, are they all your clones? Absinthe rolled his eyes at Brandy. Of course, they are all my clones. Cute, right? So far, all the rumors about Absinthe are small-sized boys, each of which is only the size of a thumb. They walked with their legs and looked like they were running very fast, but in this large room, they moved very slowly, and the whole thing looked very funny. But soon they disappeared in everything. Brandy looked at their funny appearance and couldn't help muttering, they are all short-legged, a little stupid. Hearing this, Absinthe jumped up and down. You are the short-legged one, your whole family is short-legged. Looking at the angry Absinthe, Brandy temporarily shut up. This is not a good time to quarrel with Absinthe. After today, he will let Absinthe know what a boss is and what power is. He was brewing a plan in his mind, how to brew Absinthe. Absinthe's eyes were vague at this time, as if he was communicating with his clones, and he didn't notice the scrutiny in Bai Ian's eyes. Absinthe's face soon showed a trace of horror. Oh no, something has come out. It's rushing down from the second floor, a guy like a spider. Ah, my clone was killed. Bang. With a loud bang, a figure rushed out from the staircase in the corridor and hit the wall of the corridor. The collision immediately attracted the attention of Vodka and the other two, and they looked at the intruder. Then they all showed a trace of horror in their eyes. What kind of existence is this? A monster with 8 hairy spider legs and a human-like upper body. A hideous insect face with a mouth full of sharp teeth and a sharp mouth like a hole. The entire upper body is covered with a layer of fine scales, which obviously has a strong defense. This monster is at least 3 meters tall, almost to the height of the ceiling of the lobby. Its bloated body squeezed out of the corridor, and its eyes were directly locked on the 3 people, rushing towards them with great murderous intent. Looking at this scene, Vodka's eyes suddenly showed a trace of solemnity. He walked in the front, and the blood in his body was boiling. A violent force rose from the surface of his body like a flame. The dark and profound power comes from the power of blood. The black light covers his whole body, and he is 2 meters tall, like a black iron tower. Although he is shorter than the spider-like monster in front of him, his momentum is not inferior at all. A deep voice sounded, Absinthe, Brandy, you two be careful, I can't take care of you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 326. While he was talking, the spider monster had already moved, and its black legs instantly penetrated the air with great force. A shadow flashed by, and the hairy feet pierced Vodka's shadow. Vodka had instantly arrived in front of the monster, and his fists were like two heavy artillery. He hit the place where the 8 long legs and the body met. Boom! A huge collision sounded, and the abdomen of the spider monster sank in an instant. Chi! A strange howl sounded in an instant, and the upper body of the spider monster, 2 black pincers, grabbed towards Vodka. The sound of breaking through the air sounded, and Vodka did not stop at all, and flashed back. But this time, his face changed during the retreat. The 2 long legs had been blasted out at some point, and they had already slashed towards him from left to right the moment he retreated. One slashed at his head, and the other slashed at his lower body, in opposite directions. Once all of them fell on him, it is conceivable that he would be directly split in half by the attack of 2 forces. A hideous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. You can't kill me just because you want to. The thought flashed through his mind, and his hands stretched out to the left and right without knowing when. Instantly grabbed the 2 long legs that were chopped. Bang bang. 2 low muffled sounds, the 2 long legs as thick as the mouth of a bowl were caught by Vodka and stopped in mid-air. At the same time, his 2 palms shone with black light, and his palms squeezed instantly. Crack! 2 pieces of black flesh and blood were torn off the 2 long legs in an instant. After being severely injured, the 2 long legs of the spider monster suddenly retracted. At the same time, a shrill and angry howl was issued. Chiji! It was obvious that it didn't understand why this prey didn't die obediently under its attack. The spider monster opened its terrifying mouth, and something seemed to be sprayed out. At this moment, Vodka had already sensed the danger and flashed away from the spot. At the same time, a stream of dark green liquid spurted out of the mouth of the spider monster, covering the area where Vodka was. Brandy and Absinthe had already retreated to the position near the French window near the bar at the first time. There was an angle there, which happened to be a depression, which could avoid the melee in the lobby. Countless dark green liquids covered the ground. Zzz. The corrosion sound continued to sound, and deep small holes appeared on the floor. Vodka didn't know when he had hidden in the bar. Its movement speed was very amazing. It seemed to be a huge body, but it was as agile as a cheetah. Relying on the cover of the bar, he was not hit by the dark green liquid. But this attack also made him feel threatened. With a sudden flash, he had already rushed out of the entrance of the bar. This position was just behind the spider monster. After rushing here, he suddenly bent his legs, exerted force, jumped up directly, and rushed to the back of the spider monster. His series of actions were as fast as lightning, and with his body size, he was like a heavy tank. In just a moment, he had arrived behind the spider monster. 2 fists fell like raindrops, covering the entire back of the spider monster in an instant. Bang, 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 bang. Dozens of fierce bombardments sounded in succession, and the back of the spider monster was sunken. More than a dozen fist marks all smashed into its body, and even the sound of the spider monster's internal organs rupturing could be heard. Vodka perfectly demonstrated his terrifying combat power comparable to the second level of the human immortal way. After the spider monster was attacked fiercely, it trembled violently for a few times, and then its body collapsed and fell directly down. At this time, Vodka also flipped in the air and fell heavily to the ground. His face did not feel a bit of relief because of killing the spider monster. He looked at the classical clock in the lobby. It was only 11:30 now. In other words, it was not the time when the weird existence usually came, but they had already begun to appear. Suddenly, Vodka and the other 2 felt a heavy pressure of a storm. The attack of this pressure made Vodka feel a little terrified. Vodka was a little nervous. I hope the manager will come back soon, otherwise once I run out of strength. We can only hide in the underground maze and play hide and seek. At this time, Absinthe and Brandy came out from the corner. The 2 looked at the huge spider monster corpse on the ground with some fear, both with horror on their faces. Absinthe looked solemn, This thing is too big. At least it is the combat power of the first level of the human immortal way. It's not even 12 o'clock yet, and this kind of thing has come out. It seems that something big has happened. Brandy looked a little uneasy at this time. What should we do now? Things are a little beyond our control. Should we go out immediately and wait for the manager outside, or continue to guard here? Brandy seemed a little confused. He had never experienced this before and could not make a correct judgment. At this time, the battle-hardened vodka whispered, "We must have a plan. Make full use of all our advantages. The underground maze will be our main battlefield." Absinthe immediately had an idea when he heard this. "You mean lead all these strange invading beings into the underground maze?" Vodka looked solemn and nodded. "Except for this method, I'm afraid we have no other chance." Absinthe thought for a while. "Indeed, except for this method, we have no other means to win." The two looked at Brandy. "Let's go, let's open the entrance to the underground maze first. Then let all the maze guards start preparing. As for you, it's best to hide in the underground maze and don't come out." Brandy's face was a little ugly when he heard this. "Is it so serious?" The two nodded and said, "Yes, it's very serious." Brandy's mouth twitched, and then said, "Okay, let's go to the underground maze." 2 minutes later, the three of them came to the underground maze, where there were a total of 7 maze guards at the level of human immortals. All of them came from the command of Dong Gong Wudi. This treasure-delivering boy gave Lin Yi a lot of benefits. At this time, the housekeeper Scorpion looked at the 3 people who entered the underground maze with a serious expression. 3 people, a creature from another world appeared in the underground maze just now, and we have killed it together. Is there any situation up there?" Absinthe nodded and said, "Yes, there is also a strange creature up there. But we killed it too. But it's only around 11:30, not even 12 o'clock. The House of Everything I Created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 327. These strange beings have begun to descend one after another, which is obviously an extremely abnormal phenomenon. We must be prepared to welcome more enemies to descend. This underground maze will become our main battlefield. We will lead these strange beings into the underground maze later, gather all our strength, and annihilate them one by one. You should also be prepared. Time waits for no one. At this time, everyone's eyes turned to Brandy, as if waiting for him to give the final order. After all, when Lin Yi was away, Brandy was the person with the highest status in the Wanchaiwu. The final order needs to be issued by him. This is the order left by Lin Yi. Looking at the eyes of everyone, Brandy took a deep breath. He felt a sense of responsibility and pressure. "Just do as you said, and treat the underground maze as a battlefield." Butler Scorpion looked at Brandy and said respectfully, "Mr. Brandy, please follow me, I will take you to the safe room." After Brandy followed Scorpion away, Absinthe looked at Vodka. "Do you have other thoughts? Want to use the power of these alien beings to kill Lin Yi and get out of here?" Vodka looked at Absinthe with a faint smile in his eyes. He, don't you think so too?" Both of them immediately showed gloomy smiles on their faces, and the 6 maze guards on the side just looked at them coldly. It has become a maze, and the guarded life forms no longer have their own emotions, and are completely a cold life form. Although they have past memories, emotions, and even power, they will no longer have any emotional fluctuations because of emotions. They were born with only one purpose, to guard the maze and the owner of the maze, Lin Yi. They will automatically memorize what Absinthe and Vodka said, and when Lin Yi returns, he can naturally get the memory from them. Absinthe and Vodka don't know this, they just notice the weirdness of the maze puppets. They know that they are no longer a normal life form, without joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness, without life, and without all emotions and profit-seeking. The so-called profit-seeking means that life will try every means to do everything that is in its own interests and get everything that is in its own interests. The maze guards don't have this characteristic at all, so they will talk about these issues here unscrupulously. Because the maze guards don't care what they say or do, as long as they are ordered, they will do it. Of course, the premise of this order is that it cannot threaten Lin Yi. Boom. On the first floor above the maze, strange roars and bangs appeared again, as if something was smashing things everywhere. Absinthe and Vodka looked at each other, and a mysterious smile appeared in their eyes. "I'll lure him down, you guys get ready." After saying that, Absinthe had turned into a vengeful spirit, left the underground maze through the passage, and flew towards the kitchen. When he walked out of the underground maze and came to the kitchen, a strange being just came in from the kitchen door. It was a very strange thing. Its body was composed of countless faces, and its lower body was a body that looked like a snake's tail. There were dozens of slender tentacles on the sides of its body, and its eyes instantly stared at Absinthe. Absinthe was also shocked when he encountered a strange being as soon as he left the underground maze. At the same time, he noticed the countless eyes and strange tentacles on the other party, and immediately retreated back to the maze. And the strange being, after discovering Absinthe, rushed over quickly. With almost no stop, it tracked Absinthe and plunged into the maze. But this strange being probably wouldn't have thought of it. The moment he entered the underground maze, countless dark green threads gushed out from the sky, the ground, and the walls. It was suspended in the air in an instant, and at the same time, a full 8 figures of the human immortal level rushed towards him from the passage. Various attacks fell on it like raindrops. It didn't even have time to struggle or react, and it was killed by the concentrated fire of 8 human immortal level strongmen. Puff. His body exploded and turned into countless corpses, scattered in the underground maze. A mysterious force spread out and quickly eroded these corpses. At this time, the core of the Wanchaiwu, the strange magic cube, has absorbed a lot of human immortal level existences since it was integrated into the Wanchaiwu. With the integration of this human immortal level monster, he seemed to have undergone mysterious changes. The majestic power spread from the strange magic square to the entire Wanchaiwu. In the Wanchaiwu, the strange objects in various spaces received this power. After these strange objects receive this power, a new power will flow out, which is the power of the original characteristics of these strange objects. These powers will flow back into the strange magic cube. The blocks that make up the magic cube are all lit up with different lights. The blood ring, the wailing ring, the red jade comb, the underground maze, the wish shrine, the mobile thatched house black stone slab, 6 strange objects, represent the 6 spaces of the strange magic cube. As these 6 spaces become brighter, the power of the strange objects seems to be affected, with at least 30% increase. In the underground maze, all the maze guards felt that their power limit seemed to have increased by about 10%. This is an extremely amazing increase, which means that every immortal level guard here can match the first level of the liquid state of the immortal. The power gushed out of their bodies crazily, and Absinthe and Vodka on the side changed their faces. What happened? Their power seems to have increased. Absinthe immediately realized something. This is probably the power of the core of the weird illusion. I heard from the store manager that his Wanchaiwu is constructed by special power. The core is the core of the weird illusion. The weird illusion is an abnormal space composed of weird power, and there are countless weird beings in it. The weird illusion core is the most important item that constitutes the entire space. These guys have a big increase in combat power, and we will be safer. Thinking of this, the two felt both relieved and a little gloomy. It means safety, but it also means that it will be more difficult for the weird beings to kill Lin Yi. The two of them couldn't help but sigh in their hearts, but they had no choice but to accept this reality. Time passed by minute, and every 10 minutes or so, a strange creature would appear. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 328. Absinthe went up to lure it into the underground maze, and with the help of the power of the guards in the maze, these strange beings were killed one by one. These strange beings had no possibility of resistance at all, facing 8 masters of the human immortal level. Everything quickly stabilized, and their tactics were successful. The dead strange beings also brought more strange power to the Wanchai. In a blink of an eye, the time was 12 o'clock. Goo 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 goo. The classical bells from the lobby rang, and everyone in the underground maze looked slightly serious. They could feel that at this moment, the atmosphere in the Wanchai seemed to be even more weird. And the next moment, the whole Wanchai seemed to be lively. One after another strange figures were slowly emerging everywhere. Twisted space barriers appeared in various places in the Wanchai. These barriers began to bulge rapidly, and some strange beings could be seen with the naked eye, trying to tear these barriers apart and descend into the Wanchai. Even in the underground maze, there were more than 10 places where such distorted space barriers appeared. As the guards of the maze, Scorpion and his men naturally felt the changes in the underground maze. Just listening to the voice of the housekeeper Scorpion, not good, there are at least 10 places in the underground maze where space distortion has occurred. I don't know how many there are in the upper 2 floors. We must clean up the entire underground maze as soon as possible. Everyone follow me, gather all your strength, and attack them one by one. At this time, after hearing this, Absinthe and Vodka showed a hint of joy in their eyes. Maybe there is a chance, with our strength we can't eliminate all the weird existences here. If Lin Yi crashes in at this time, he will be dead. Thinking of this, whether it is Vodka or Absinthe, the smiles on their faces can't be concealed. However, due to the order from Lin Yi, they must execute it with all their strength, without any water. Following Scorpion, they soon came to the first place of distortion. Here is a weird existence in a black robe, who has drilled out of the barrier. The whole body is filled with a faint weird power, and at the same time, black ice is spreading around it. But no matter how weird it looks, 8 immortal level warriors have already rushed towards it. The terrifying power was output crazily, drowning it in an instant. The violent black ice burst out from it. But it was useless. Under the absolute power, the ice he burst out was torn into countless pieces in an instant. And he was also torn into countless pieces. After one blow, everyone did not stay in place. Instead, they rushed to the second direction without stopping. The speed of the crowd was very fast, and countless dark green silk threads in the maze were also attacking. All the strange beings that emerged from the twisted barrier were targets. The dark green silk threads in the maze were not powerful in terms of attack power. Its main function was to be tough and entangled, preventing these strange beings from gathering together in the maze shuttle, thus causing greater trouble for Vodka and others to besiege. In less than 30 seconds, the second strange being was exposed to everyone's sight. The same concentrated fire, one shot killed, and then the body was swallowed by the underground maze. The crisscrossing underground maze, with countless dark green silk threads. And with the assistance of the inertial level maze puppets that had been captured. All the forces were combined together to successfully block the random movement of these strange beings and prevent them from joining together. It also successfully allowed Vodka and his team to use the tactics of dividing and attacking these strange beings. In just 5 minutes, all the strange beings in the underground maze were annihilated. After solving the strange beings in the underground maze, they quickly returned to the entrance of the maze. Absinthe quickly went out of the maze entrance and came to the kitchen. His eyes looked through the kitchen door to the lobby, where at least 5 strange beings were floating. As far as the eye could see, these strange beings were very illusory, as if they had no entity. Some were shrouded in tattered black robes, some were shrouded in pure white clothes, and some were simply a shadow with unclear shapes. Seeing this scene, a strange look appeared in his eyes. This time, are all the weird beings of the illusory category? Many question marks flashed through his mind, but at this time he was obviously noticed by these weird beings. All these figures turned their heads and looked at him, and then rushed towards him like ghosts. Silently, they seemed to make no sound. But he could feel a terrifying and cold breath coming towards him. Instantly he shuddered, and Absinthe, as a vengeful spirit, did not dare to face these weird beings. He rushed into the entrance of the underground maze. It was only a few seconds after he rushed in that 5 weird beings had rushed down from the entrance of the maze one after another. But they were just the beginning. One after another, the weird beings rushed in from the entrance of the maze. At least 20 appeared in just a blink of an eye. These weird beings are all at the level of human immortals, and their scalps tingled when they saw the 9 people in the underground maze. Vodka made a prompt decision: retreat immediately and use the characteristics of the maze to disperse them. Otherwise we will definitely lose. Without any hesitation, everyone followed his orders and quickly retreated along the maze passage. At the same time, Scorpion's voice sounded in everyone's ears: I have been granted the authority to manipulate the maze to make it change. I will find a way to divide them into several parts later. Then we will take a detour, find their scattered parts, and repel them one by one. Vodka and Absinthe nodded. Okay, everyone get ready. At this time, in the maze, 20 strange beings saw Absinthe and others running away and quickly chased them. However, just as they turned the fork, the maze wall suddenly extended and cut them off in the middle. Then the road they came from became another passage. These strange beings do not seem to have wisdom, just relying on some kind of mechanical instinct to operate. There were about 10 strange beings in the wave that was cut off at the back. After seeing the new passage, they rushed there without hesitation. The strange beings in the front didn't care that the strange beings behind were separated. A total of 20 strange beings were divided into 2 waves with this simple method, and the most important thing was that they didn't even resist. Scorpion led everyone to a safe room. At the same time, the mind quickly controlled the maze to start running, and those strange beings were continuously divided. In just 1 minute, he had at least divided 7 parts of strange beings. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Xuanhuan Luan Tianji. Chapter 329. Seeing this, he showed a hint of joy in his eyes. Okay, I succeeded, let's go. The 9 of them followed orders and, led by Scorpion, rushed towards the nearest wave of strange existences. The underground maze is not big, only about 200 square meters, and the width of each maze is only about 2 meters. The maximum limit is only 4 people can run in parallel at the same time. But the height is 3 meters, which can accommodate 8 people to attack from both sides of the sky at the same time. Soon they came to the channel of the latest wave of divided strange existences. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow diamond suit. There are a total of 3 strange existences in front of them, and these 3 strange existences are all illusory forms. The body structure that seems to be like a vengeful spirit, facing 8 different human immortal level attacks, immediately fell into crisis. Fists and weapons covered with various lights covered the passage in front of the 3 strange existences. Under the saturation attack, the 3 strange beings had no place to hide and could only fight head-on. Bang, bang, bang. The moment they were focused, they exploded like bubbles. The 3 ghost-like strange beings collapsed instantly. Countless illusory light spots filled the maze. Under the power of the maze, these light spots quickly dissipated and were all swallowed up. Scorpion's voice was low. Quick, those strange beings have begun to attack the maze. With their power, the maze can't hold on for long. Hearing this, everyone's heart tightened. If the maze was destroyed, they would also face death. The speed of the crowd was faster, and they found the second wave of strange beings in less than a minute. Another concentrated fire, this wave had 4 strange beings, and 2 of them exploded on the spot. 2 more were severely injured, and their bodies were half worn out. But they were not dead yet, and they rushed towards Vodka and others frantically. Courage is commendable, but the ending is tragic. Vodka punched out with both fists, covering them with violent black light, and blew them all up out of thin air. At this time, the maze wall in the area where they were located had been punched through 2 huge holes, connecting to the maze passages on the left and right. If they came a little later, this area would be destroyed. After killing the second wave of weird existences, Scorpion led them to the third wave of weird existences without stopping. At this time, they were racing against time, and they had to solve all of them before these weird existences adapted to the maze. Scorpion communicated with the entire underground maze, and he could feel it very clearly. There were 4 waves of existences approaching quickly, and they had destroyed most of the mazes around them. Once these weird existences gathered, they would no longer be able to carry out the tactics of breaking them one by one. He stared closely at the last wave of weird existences that were left alone, only 5 meters away from them. The distance of 5 meters was very close for them, under the leadership of Scorpion. Just 1 second later, at the corner of a passage, they encountered the last wave of solitary strange beings. There were 3 in total, and there was still no accident. Under the concentrated fire of the 8 of them, the 3 strange beings were crushed on the spot. Absinthe had been following the 8 of them, and he was just a top-level existence. He would not participate in this level of battle, at most he would help out on the side. At this time, Scorpion's voice rang in everyone's ears. Everyone, now the other waves of strange beings have destroyed the maze passages near them. All gathered together, a total of 10 strange beings. They are destroying the passages of the maze all the way and approaching us. Let's prepare for the most dangerous battle. Everyone was awed when they heard this. The maze guards were fine. Even if their bodies were crushed, as long as the maze still existed, they would not die and could recover their combat effectiveness in a short time. But Vodka couldn't do that. Once he died, he was really dead. Absinthe could only return to the summoning album to recuperate at most. Scorpion summoned all the maze guards. More than 30 maze guards of the level of penetration quickly gathered here. Scorpion said to Absinthe, "These maze guards are under your command. We will fight the 10 weird beings with all our strength, and we need you to support us from the side." Absinthe was slightly excited, licked his lips, and smiled sinisterly. Hee, don't worry, I can't fight head-on, but I'm the best at sneaking up on people. A piece of open space of hundreds of square meters has appeared in the entire underground maze, and the maze walls have been destroyed everywhere. The underground maze passages here have all been destroyed, leaving only ruins. Vodka and the 7 maze guards walked towards the 10 weird beings here. And Absinthe began to command more than 30 maze guards of the level of penetration to surround them for 4 weeks. As long as there is any opportunity, they will rush forward fearlessly to create opportunities for Scorpion and others. The 10 weird beings gathered together also set their sights on Scorpion and others. The strange atmosphere quickly spread and filled the area. One of the strange beings was surrounded by black mist. This mist can greatly interfere with everyone's vision and senses. Scorpion saw the scene and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. The next moment, countless dark green threads fell from the ground and sky of the maze, entangled with these strange beings. At the same time, Vodka and others also launched an attack. They all rushed into the black fog. With the addition of dark green threads, their danger in the black fog was instantly reduced. As long as the strange beings touched these dark green threads, they would trigger their counterattack and attract the attention of Vodka and others. Bang, bang, bang. There were huge roars in the fog. They had already fought, and Absinthe also started his work. His resentment turned into small absinthes and rushed into the mist. He was grasping all the situations on the battlefield through his small clones. The battlefield fell into a state of anxiety the moment it appeared. Vodka was facing the crazy attack of a strange being. The other party was covered with white scales, but his body looked very illusory. Countless dark green threads surrounded it, but its illusory body was completely unaffected. Even all the green threads that touched this strange existence would be corroded by a pure white force. Seeing this scene, Vodka's pupils shrank slightly. A sense of danger enveloped him. At least a second-level existence of the human immortal way. For the first time, he felt the pressure deeply, and the blood in his body was shaking wildly. A dense pure black light covered his body, making his 2-meter body as black as an iron tower. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Xuanhuan Luan Tianji. Chapter 330. He took a step forward and came to the front of this strange existence. One hand had turned into a fist cannon and smashed towards the chest of this existence. The strange existence did not dodge in the face of Vodka's attack. Its hands were 4-fingered claws. With a hazy white light, the left claw grabbed Vodka's right fist. At the same time, the right claw stabbed towards Vodka's heart. Vodka's body flashed, and a mysterious step passed under his feet. He suddenly avoided it in a flash, and the next moment he was on the left side of the monster. At the same time, his fist turned into a hand knife, bringing a black light and slashing towards the opponent's neck. The strange existence seemed to have a mysterious fighting instinct, and its body moved an inch to the right out of thin air, avoiding Vodka's hand knife. At this time, countless white lights suddenly burst out from the left side of this strange existence, and a sense of danger came over him. Vodka retreated violently in an instant, avoiding the cover of this white light. When he saw what appeared in front of him, he couldn't help but feel awe in his heart. There were countless crystal spikes made of white light. Covering the 2-meter range in front of him, as long as he was a little slower, these pure white crystal-like spikes would pierce him. Suddenly, a trace of solemnity appeared on his face, and he became more alert to the strange existence of the white scales in front of him. Taking a deep breath, Vodka's eyes showed unprecedented solemnity, throwing away the initial contempt. Waves of black power flowed out of his body. Originally, this power only covered him, but now more and more energy was flowing out. These black lights condensed rapidly and then turned into a layer of black crystalline armor covering the surface of the body. You are qualified to let me use my full strength, armor form. A low roar exploded, and the next moment, he had rushed up, his fists like dragons, and the violent power all burst out on the barrier formed by the crystal spikes. The crystal spikes trembled violently under the heavy punch, and then the cracks began to spread continuously, and finally all broke. His armor seemed as strong as metal, and these crystal spikes could hardly cause any damage to his armor. The strange existence with white scales also sensed the danger in the face of Vodka's crazy attack. Countless white lights appeared around it. Densely packed, one after another white crystals appeared out of thin air. They enveloped Vodka, and the overwhelming attack covered every corner of his body. Dang 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 dang. The crisp collision sound of metal continued to erupt. In this short moment, countless crystal spikes as thick as needles hit Vodka. It made his whole body tremble violently, and countless dents appeared on his crystal armor. But these crystal spikes could never pierce his armor. At this time, Vodka had already rushed to the front of the strange existence with white scales under countless attacks. Both hands pierced straight into the chest of the scale monster, and the 5 fingers were put together, turning the palm into a knife. Countless black energy lights gathered in his hands, turning them into 2 sharp knives. The power of the sharp knife was amazing. Even the sharp knife formed by his hands was about to turn into a substantial light. The terrifying power instantly penetrated the body of the strange being with white scales. But Vodka was not happy, but turned back. But the 2 sharp claws had already tightly grasped his hands at some point. The face of this strange being was a blurry and illusory face. As it grabbed Vodka, this face changed instantly. It became the face of a beautiful woman with a beautiful appearance. The moment Vodka saw this face, his body trembled, as if he had seen something incredible. His eyes fell into a kind of confusion in an instant, as if he was completely attracted by this look. Involuntarily, his face approached the face of this strange being. Although the face of this strange being was a beautiful face, it was filled with a mysterious hazy feeling. As Vodka's face covered with black crystals approached this face, a faint breath was slowly flowing out of Vodka's mouth and flowing into the mouth of the strange being with white scales. This strange being seemed to be absorbing Vodka's life. It was visible to the naked eye that Vodka's breath was rapidly weakening. At this dangerous moment, two black shadows rushed up and crashed into Vodka and the strange being with white scales. Their appearance interrupted the whole process. Vodka suddenly woke up, exerted all his strength, and pulled out his hands that were inserted into the other's chest. He retreated 3 meters away and let out a heavy gasp. He felt that his physical strength seemed to weaken at this moment. The power of the spiritual series. It's so weird that it can turn into her appearance. Can this see through the secrets in my heart? Thinking of the dangerous situation just now, Vodka couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. If he had been a little later just now, he would probably have died in the hands of the other party. Thinking of this, his eyes showed an unprecedented solemnity, and he looked at the white-scaled monster. At this time, the ones who helped him were the first maze guards who were subdued and only at the level of body penetration. At this time, the 2 low-level maze guards had been pierced by countless white crystal spikes. Their bodies hung on those sharp thorns, like 2 dried corpses. Slowly standing up again, Vodka's eyes revealed a hint of coldness. Looking at the white-scale armored monster walking towards him, a sneer appeared on his face. Then start the second wave of attack. With a grin, his hands turned into the power of sharp knives, and began to quickly burst out a mysterious wave. The blade began to vibrate at a high frequency, and a trace of black hazy breath enveloped his hands. The next moment, he pounced again. The knife light was like 2 crescent moons, falling from the sky, covering the white-scale armored monster. Facing this strange knife light, the white-scale armored monster seemed to have sensed the danger. Countless white lights surged around it, and in an instant it seemed to turn into a huge wave of sharp thorns, slapping towards Vodka. The violent power grew to the extreme in an instant, directly submerging Vodka, but the next moment a change occurred. The dark hazy blade light exploded in an instant, cutting a path through the white giant wave of sharp thorns. A black shadow came directly in front of the white-scaled monster, and the blade light flashed. A cross of light passed through the body of the white-scaled monster. The whole body of this strange existence froze, and a black cross of light pierced through it, dividing it into 4 pieces. The illusory body seemed to be ignited by black flames and burned in an instant.